Stan mentioned, my name is Mike Henderson. I'm with Greater Vancouver Gateway Council. The Gateway Council consists basically of every organization that provides transportation services in what we call the Gateway area. I'm going to speak primarily about the port and rail operations. I'll try to focus on False Creek Flats area because I know that's of greatest interest to you. I've given to the Jefferson folks this brochure. It outlines broadly what the Port of Vancouver is, what its mandate is, what it ships, how many people work there, what the economic value is, and so on. So this is a really useful broad context piece for the presentation.
And I'll put that on the resource table, and it'll also be up on our website midweek.
So first, and I believe I have 4 minutes, is that right, Susanna?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, what is the Gateway? We talk about the Gateway a lot in the transportation sector. Essentially, the Gateway is that part of the land in the lower mainland that extends from about Abbotsford, if you think of the point of a triangle, and then fans out down toward the ocean. Sometimes people call it Metro Vancouver, sometimes they call it Lower Mainland, sometimes they call it Southwest BC. That's what we mean by Gateway. The Gateway is a very important area in terms of regional, national, and international trade. A huge amount of Canada's trade goes through this area. And its importance in the context of marine, rail, and truck. And Dave Earle, who will follow me, is going to speak more about the trucking activity. Just a few points of interest. I'm not going to bore you with statistics, but there's a few that will help give you a perspective on the importance of this part of the world. Port of Vancouver is the largest port in Canada. It's depends how you measure it. It's the second or third largest port in North America. The Port of Vancouver is bigger than the next 5 ports in Canada combined. Last year it shipped about 142 million metric tons. That may not mean a lot, but it is a lot. Grain, potash, coal, containers, the list goes on. And it's projected to increase to around 200 million tons by 2030. So essentially, a decade from now, it will rise that much. One statistic I often find useful is 1 out of every 3 export dollars earned in Canada, excluding direct trade with the US, goes through the Port of Vancouver, in Burrard Inlet, and as you know, Delta Port out by the BC Ferries. It supports approximately $12 billion in GDP. Each day there's over 600 million exported or imported, and it supports on the order of 100,000 jobs, both direct and indirect, in the lower mainland and elsewhere. So what does False Creek Flats and the rail system in particular have to do with the port? The important thing to remember is that the False Creek Flats and the VI line, which is a component of the False Creek Flats system, is part of an integrated rail system that serves the port, and particularly Western Canada, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. The rail system in False Creek Flats is not a standalone, it's not unique, it's just part of the rail system, part of the way that goods get moved down to the south shore of Burrard Inlet. Approximately 25% of total port tonnage goes through the south shore of Burrard Inlet. So that's where, for example, the container terminals are. Only a small proportion of that actually goes on the BI line. Now, I know we're not here specifically to talk about the BI line, but it does come up. It just came up a few minutes ago. So a small proportion of all that material that's going to the south shore of Burrard Inlet for export or import goes on the BI line. Most of it goes on a line, it's a CP line that's starts in the Gateway in Port Moody, traverses under the Ironworkers Memorial Bridge, and then along the south shore of East Vancouver. The material that does go through False Creek Flats consists largely of containers and agricultural products. The area, in terms of rail, is also important for Amtrak, Rocky Mountaineer, and VIA. Those 3 passenger services use that area as well. In terms of sustainability, rail is the most efficient way of moving large amounts of cargo to the coast. It's much more efficient than generally using trucks, for example. The rail system has become a lot more sustainable in recent years with the addition of new engines that are much more efficient, train engines using greenhouse gas emissions. And the grade separation, potential grade separations, in addition to the ones that exist at Powell and Hastings already, along the BI line are recognized as really important both for the industry and the community, the people who live in there. And finally, I want to just mention something called rail proximity guidelines. These are guidelines that were generated by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Rail Association of Canada, dealing with developments in and around rail operations anywhere in the country, essentially focused on how can communities and other industry exist in the vicinity of rail operations in a way that's satisfactory to both. And it deals with things like noise, vibration, and so on. So I will stop there. I'm more than happy to answer any questions here today or at some time in the future. Thank you very much for listening.
Next up, we are going to invite Dave Earle, who is the president and CEO of the BC Trucking Association.
Great, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for taking your time on a Sunday and for the next few of your weekends to come and work on this very important discussion. Like Mike, I've got 4 minutes, so I'll be really quick. BC Trucking Association, who are we? Our members, we've got about 1,200 members around the province. We have about 26,000 people working with our members. We contribute about $2.2 billion to BC's GDP. There's about 34,000 people working in the industry as a whole. Most of our members are small companies, of about 5 to 20 trucks. So, Falls Creek Flats, the anatomy of traffic congestion in Metro Vancouver. What's going on, what's happening, what do we see? Simply put, when you look at this map, we do have copies that are in your presentation. There's an awful lot of red. Everybody knows what we deal with on a regular basis, and when we talk about transportation in our world, we're talking about goods movement. We're not talking about people. We're talking about moving the things. I always get twitchy when you guys get a gas leak and we hear all these noises. We're talking about moving goods. We're talking about moving the things that you see every day. Everything that you see in this room came on a truck. Everything. Everything that you're wearing came on a truck. It is a rare thing that didn't. So when we talk about density, we talk about more people coming to a given area, people need things. They need food. They need clothing. They need stuff. All of that, at one point or another in its journey, comes on a truck. From 2003 to present, the number of heavy vehicles in BC has increased by 36%. And part of that is because of economic growth. Part of it is because of the different way that we consume goods and food and all those things. When you think about online shopping, we don't have bricks and mortar stores anymore to go to. You order it. It comes on a truck. Everything that we do still comes on the back of a truck. Efficient roads and truck routes is critical to reduce GHG emissions. Figure to keep in mind, 1 liter of diesel is about 2.69 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Simply put, the more fuel we burn, the more GHGs we emit. Our members, our association, provincial government, Clean BC, is working very aggressively to bring alternate fuel vehicles to market. I'm pleased to say this year you're going to see the first couple electric light buses being used for tourism industry in the city of Vancouver. However, the big stuff we're a long ways away from. Best information we have, the California Air Resources Board has contributed $41 million to a pilot project with PACCAR, who's a major big equipment supplier, and Toyota. 2024, limited numbers maybe, is what we're looking at for some hybrid hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So we're ways away from lots of take up on that, better part of a decade. The more efficient our road network is, the less GHG emissions we're going to have. Utilizing the most direct route with built-in redundancy and which avoids stop and go traffic is what our members are looking for, what supports an effective transportation system. Produce Row down on Malcolm Street, this is an example of what we're trying to create as a critical hub. This is where Food comes in, food gets distributed. There's a lot of distribution work, a lot of efficiencies that are created because they're all in one row. There's lots of cross-dock work where when the product comes into one warehouse, is moved to another before it's distributed throughout the city. The alternative, if it's not there, all of this stuff is going to get trucked in from further away. We can't use one big truck, one big system to get it in and then distribute it. We're going to have that in another location, be distributing it from there. I just saw my 1 minute sign come up, so am I short? Are we good? I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Any questions, please feel free to reach out and give me a call.